Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of League Chat with the Stat. Thank you for joining me on another big week this week, covering all things from finals week 2. Letting you guys know once again that this episode is brought to you by Latitude Accountants. Now, I know the boys at Latitude Accountants very well, and when you meet these boys, you just know that they're born to be accountants. They're big Bulldogs and Parramatta supporters, and they're able to assist you with any of your accounting needs. So if you need a new accountant, don't be afraid and don't hesitate to give Mick or Pat a call, 0298909040, 0298909040, and they'll be able to assist you with anything you need in terms of your accounting. Guys, another big week of rugby league that's gone past us this week. Only the 2 games now that we're in the finals and business end of the season. But look, guys, so much to cover, so much to get through, so let's get straight into it. The Seagulls 42 defeated the Roosters 6, and look, it was a massive win for the Seagulls, a big turnaround from the performance they put on, the week before against Melbourne. Now, you got to consider the fact that Roosters are very under strength, and they've been like that most of the year. But the Seagulls just rolled with it. Trbojevic was more involved, got his hands more on the ball, and it's just hard for the Roosters to be able to control that momentum that he had. But look, the Seagulls, they were very happy that they made it through to the preliminary final, which is a huge achievement considering they were looking at the wooden spoon after the first month of the season. But they've got a massive, massive opportunity here to prove the doubters wrong and get one over the Rabbitohs this week. Now, you've got to consider as well, with so many players that have played well for the Seagulls throughout the year, they have to find another level now because they couldn't find it against Melbourne. They found it against Roosters, but again, they were very under strength. But they're now going to find another level and go and take on the Rabbitohs this week, who are coming off fresh from the week break and ready to go, and having to put a lot more work in, from the performance they had the week before and getting ready for this big game. It's the game before the grand final, and the Seagulls will be more than prepared and more than ready to go out and give them everything. So Seagulls have to find another level. Now, the Roosters, what a year they've had. Such a courageous effort. From 1 to 17, anyone that filled that jersey filled it with pride and played their best and played their hardest. But look, they were extremely outmatched. They just couldn't contain Tom Trbojevic, and that's them done for the year. Very sad seeing Josh Morris play his last ever game and retired on a pretty positive note. And Isaac Liu ending his time there at the Roosters, heading to the Gold Coast next year for the next 3 years. So it was good to see, some of these boys put in some big efforts anyway. And look, it's just a year to remember for the Roosters. Coming into the second week of the finals, considering everything that happened, that they had so many injuries and so many people had to retire as well. So, look, I don't look at it as a failure for the Roosters. I even think that performance, was sort of expected. I didn't expect it in the beginning, but then as the points rolled on, I just thought, this is not looking really good at all. So, look, but the Roosters have played it very, very well. They've had a great year. They should be very proud of what they've achieved. Trevor Robertson should be Coach of the Year, in my opinion, but we'll just leave it up to those that actually pick the awards this year. But look, now Seagulls will move on. They'll take on the Rabbitohs, and then now we move on to our next game. Very controversial game, this one. The Panthers 8 defeating the Eagles 6. Look, I thought it was a very, very, very good game from both teams. I thought this is up there as one of the games of the year by far. Very gritty right through to the end. But here we are again. We're talking about some very, very bad calls. Now, we talk about teams having to step up, during this particular final series, but so do the referees. I mean, for crying out loud, I just don't understand, and it doesn't register in my brain, how in this game there were so many bad calls. Penrith were very lucky to win this game. I've got to say, Parramatta tried their guts out. They played with everything. The performance they put in Parramatta, they brought that up against Melbourne a few weeks back. They really, really turned it up. But unfortunately, there was just a couple of calls that they made that didn't really go well. Clint Gutherson was very flat in attack. He ruined about 4 or 5 attacking opportunities. Moses, I thought, had a very good game. Dylan Brown, quiet once again. So, Panthers had like 2 or 3 tries disallowed as well. So, they could have really run with that game, but they made it hard for themselves. But some of the calls, especially in that second half, where Moses had to spread the ball from about 40 metres out, from their line, and they were heading into their territory, and then they obviously had the ball cut out through to Fergo. Fergo makes a break down the sideline. Luai holds Moses back twice, no penalty. When Gutho goes to get the ball, knocks it back, gets tackled without the ball. 2 players get taken out in the same play. Ashley Klein goes play on. Like, I know that they're so under pressure, and I understand that it's very tough for them to call everything. But again, we're not utilising the bunker the right way. And it really stuffed up the Parramatta Eagles. Not to mention, the Eels had a lot of errors. Now, we got to understand that. Ray Stone, 3 errors in that second half. Just very poor. He's a lock. He's more of a lock, but he's coming in to fill in the boots of Red Marnie, and he didn't have the best game. But the big talking point from this game was with 4 minutes to go, Eels have all the momentum. They get a 6 again. Mitch Kenny gets injured, and it's a legitimate injury. There is nothing about it where he actually faked it. It was a very legitimate injury. And the ref gets them to stop the play while Eels have the advantage and have the chance to go and score with a couple of minutes to go. For the guy in the trainer, to come out, call the game off, and not even having assessed the play on the ground, Mitch Kenny, it halted the attack for the Eels. It stuffed them up big time. It gave Panthers a break to kind of wind down, get a bit of a break, and then to just kind of get prepared on their line. While for the Eels, it just deterred any bit of attack that they had with a couple minutes to go. That was frustrating to watch. You know, the parents go down and cop a $25,000 fine. That trainer isn't allowed back. People are saying it's not harsh enough. But what else can be done? That trainer can't be on the field for the rest of the year, which is the next 2 games, if they go that far. But these things that happen, these things shouldn't be happening. I found it extremely odd and very tough that call was made and Ashley Klein just went with it and stopped the game. I mean, the guy is very experienced. He's never made a call like that before. Why he's going out making calls like that and continuously doing things in the big games that shouldn't be done and not making the right calls. That play should have played on. If Panthers have 12, it is what it is. The trainer goes out, assesses the injury before realizing should he need to call time or not. And if they need to call time, they wait for that set to be completed, whether it means Eels score a try, whether it means that they get a set restart or a penalty set restart, or whether they have to get a dropout kick towards them. I mean, they got to wait till the play's continued before they go out and try to call the game off. Unless he's severely concussed and he's having some sort of attack or some sort of epileptic fit or a fit of any kind, that's when you stop the game. But for an ankle injury, it's not what you stop the game for. And it really marred the whole game. Parramatta were coming hard. And I really thought that there was a good chance that the Eels would actually win that game from that set. It wasn't meant to be. But then this is another thing that really burnt me. Blake Ferguson gets tackled. Not high, not a crusher, nothing in it. Holds his neck down for the penalty, gets up straight away and starts biffing with the opposition. We've allowed this to come into our game for what? It looks weak. It looks beyond pathetic. We shouldn't have let that come into the game. We shouldn't have been able to allow that and accept that all year just to get a penalty, just to get the upper hand. And when you looked at the replay, there was nothing in it. You know, and the refs are just assuming that anytime someone holds their head or someone holds their neck, it's just an automatic penalty. Or they're struggling to get up, it's an automatic penalty. Just call time off. View the footage. If there's something in it, then all right, call the penalty. If there's nothing in it, that's it. Don't just assume. But there's refs, they just see someone in pain and they just automatically assume, all right, penalty. And then they'll say they know that it's wrong and they can't do anything about it anyway. But look, onto the Eels. Regardless of how you look at it, yes, they played their guts out. Yes, they did really well. But this is the second year in a row that they've finished the second week of the finals. Second, maybe third year in a row. Regardless of how you look at it, they were very competitive. But again, Brad Arthur has failed to take them further than where they go in the second week of the finals. But Brad Arthur, I like to look at him as quite the manipulator. He'll start the season really well, start strong, we'll start talking about him in his contract extensions. Power will go through a bit of a form slump, a lot of pressure on the coach. Then he just gets them right when it matters most, and then gets the media on his side and gets everyone on his side and manipulates them to thinking he's a great coach. 8 years in a row, he hasn't won a grand final. Coaches get sacked after a year. Maguire almost got sacked after 2. Barrett's got 8 weeks next year, the first 8 weeks. If it doesn't prove, he's sacked. This bloke's had 8 years to get him to the grand final, and all he can say is, oh, I took him from the bottom to the top. Win it. Find the next level. But I'll tell you something about Brad Arthur. When he comes up to these games against Bellamy, against Bennett, against Robinson, in the big moments, I'm going to even say clear now. He can't win those battles. He can win them during the year, and at vital times he can win it. But when it comes to the finals and take it to another level, he can't get it right. Mentally, he knows he can't beat him. And that affects the whole team. It affects everything about that team. Because they go in knowing that, well, if our coach isn't confident, then we're not confident. But he's done this. He's led this on for 8 years. You don't see many coaches get an opportunity for 8 years, if now probably more. Look, he's confirmed for next year, but after that, they've got to sit down and assess. Is he the right man to be leading forward? They've got a lot of players coming off contract too. But look, Brad Arthur, they all talk about him. Power put in 2 or 3 good performances. Every year, same thing happens. Gets the media on his side. They talk, and then they go, oh, well, Parramatta are going to be smooth for the next year and everything's going to go well for them. But it's not. They'll come back to the second week of the finals. They'll flop again. They'll bow out. And everyone's like, weird, but Brad Arthur got him playing such a good game of football. They got him playing at such a high level of intensity. It means nothing. Win a comp or nothing. 8 years in a row. Mate, he's a master manipulator. That's all I can say about that. But look, the Panthers move forward. They will take on the Storm in the preliminary final. And the winner of those both games between Rabbitohs Manly and Storm Panthers will go through to the grand final. And we'll be able to determine who our 2021 premiers are after that. News around the NRL world. Bit to get through. Look, Ash Taylor has been offered a lifeline by the New Zealand Warriors. Now, he just got released, finished up his contract. He got told he wasn't going to be re-signed. Now, with that being said, Warriors have met up with him and are keen to have him on their books and to have him as depth in the halves. Sean O'Sullivan has been linked to the Sharks, which means that if Sean O'Sullivan was to leave, Ash Taylor will go in straight to that Warrior side. Considering they're going to be located over at Redcliffe for the remainder of the year, I think it's pretty important that the Warriors get someone in there as depth, and Ash Taylor isn't a terrible depth signing. Signing for $250,000 a year, and he'll be fine. So I think that's where they're looking at this stage, and I think they will most likely have Ash Taylor in their books for next year. The Tigers and the Raiders are keen on Tyrone Peachey. Now, the Broncos have bowed out. Tyrone Peachey's been asking for $400,000 a year, even $450,000 a year for 3 years. Now, the Tigers, I don't see where they put him. And they would need someone like Tyrone Peachey, but I just don't see where they would put him. Because Adam Dwyer will start the year next year out after getting ACL surgery. Luke Brooks will be at 6 or 7, and Jackson Hastings will come in. Yeah, they can sure sign him as like a short-term thing where he can come in off the bench and make some sort of an impact. But after that, what then happens? Does Peachey fill in full-time at 13? Does he fill in for the backs? Or is he just going to be a main util guy? Because if you drop Jackson Hastings, he's going to kick up a stink and probably ask for a release as well. So it's interesting times there for the Tigers. Now, the Raiders could use someone like Peachey, someone solid, a big utility to come off the bench and spark up their attack. He's a very good player, Tyrone Peachey, so he can do that. He'll be an asset wherever he goes. I'm just questioning how some of these clubs can really use him. Nathan Kalis, Parramatta Eel legend, has been assistant coach at a few clubs now. He'll now be leaving the Roosters and looking at another opportunity elsewhere. And he's looking to be replaced by Brett Morris, which is what I've been hearing. So Brett Morris will come in for Nathan Kalis, which is very interesting. I kind of like that. It gives Brett Morris opportunity to go into the coaching ranks and see and find himself and learn what it takes to be an NRL coach and give it a crack one day when he's ready. Anthony Milford has been charged with 3 counts of assault, of grievous bodily harm and damaging property. Now, what's happened is he's had an incident with his wife in a verbal disagreement. 2 or 3 people came to try to solve the situation. He's physically assaulted all 3, and he kind of raged it and threw a garbage can out of a car. He is facing court on the 20th of October. Broncos released a statement saying that while he isn't contracted to them next year, they'll be looking after his welfare as up until that point. And Rabbitohs are yet to make much of an announcement on that at this stage either. Isaac Lucas announced his retirement from the game. Mate, what a player. 287 NRL games, 45 tests for New Zealand, won a premiership, won a World Cup, won 4 nations. I mean, he's quite the player, Isaac Luke. He's been phenomenal when he was at the Rabbitohs, even at the Warriors, and gave a spark for the Dragons, and even the Broncos. So Isaac Luke, congratulations, mate, on a cracker career. All the best in retirement, mate. And I wish you nothing but the best for life after football. Now, the Cowboys have gone and signed 2 players from rugby, Ayosefo Masikau and Taniela Sadrugu. They will be signed with the Cowboys for season 2022. Like I mentioned earlier, Panthers will be fined $25,000 and suspend the trainer for the rest of the year for the early stoppages. Michael Maguire, now he was looking to be sacked as of Sunday. Monday, they tried to come to sort of a resolution. They were looking to have for it to happen. The board had second thoughts. Tuesday, gets sorted and he is not sacked, which is really good news. It's a very, very good sign from the Tigers that they don't sack him. And the reason I say that is because they've gone through 7 coaches in about 11 years. So sacking Maguire wouldn't have been the case. Paying him out $800,000 wouldn't have been worth it. They need to trust the process with Maguire, and they need to get rid of their board. Justin Pascoe and co are garbage and have been ruining the club for many years now. They keep throwing out coaches and trying to bring in new things and new strategies and implement new things at the club, but it's the same board that sit there, cop their big bucks, and see this club and drive him into the ground. So they're keeping him there. He'll coach the rest of next year. He starts under immense pressure. Already losing Adam Dwyer and Tommy Talau, both with ACL injuries, is going to make it so much harder. But I'm very glad that the Tigers have decided to stick with him for next year at this stage. Ryan James will be looking to get a release from the Raiders to sign a 2-year deal with the Broncos. So that's starting to gain some momentum. Should be happening within the week or so. TC Rabadi, young Broncos kid, up-and-comer, has been charged with dangerous operation of a motor vehicle. Now, what's happened here is he was in the passenger seat while his girlfriend was driving the car. He was meant to turn into a street, but they were going straight, and then he aggressively pulled the steering wheel from his missus and tried to make the turn. Cops saw him, pulled him over, issued a $500 fine, and will need to face court for that as well. So the Broncos have blown up because they've already had a few incidents. So they've had the Thomas Flegler and Jordan Reiki incident. They've had the Anthony Milford incident. Now they've had this incident. In a matter of 3 weeks, they've had 3 incidents. So Dave Donaghy, the CEO, Ben Eichen, absolutely not copying any of it. They're going to start putting in harsher things in place for the Broncos so that they come in ready to go for next year. No more excuses. You know, the biggest club in Australia, they have to be at the top, and they won't settle for anything less than what they've been copying at the moment with all these off-field dramas. Now, the Melbourne Storm have done something phenomenal here, and very pleased to hear about this, but Storm are giving free memberships away for the 2020 season. For those members that were in 2020 and 2021, they will be renewing those memberships for free for the 2022 season. This is huge news for Storm. Yes, they lose millions of dollars, but it's a way of repaying the fans and saying thank you for sticking by us through the 2 years we haven't been able to play at home. Now with the NRL looking to see how they're going to get around potentially having every player jabbed and every staff jabbed so that they can have normal crowds back and the NRL can continue to run as normal. That most likely will be the case, which means that Melbourne would have to have the games over their city and have them all at Amy Park, and then Storm will have a proper season over in Victoria as opposed to having it all in Queensland. So I think it's a very good gesture there by the Storm. For all the success that they've had, it's all about the fans, and they're just rewarding the fans of those who were members in 2020 and 2021, giving them free memberships in 2022. The Eagles have announced they're not retaining any of the following players, and they'll be leaving the club effective immediately. Blake Ferguson, who's been linked to rugby, will not be re-signed. Joey Lussick signed a 3-year deal with St. Helens. Sam Hughes and Michael Oldfield have been released to take other opportunities elsewhere, so good luck to all those players. The Titans are looking to be releasing Jamal Fogarty to the Raiders. Now, Raiders need a number 7 with Toby Sexton and AJ Brimson going to be the new halves pairing and Jaden Campbell at 1. Even though Fogarty has announced an extension with the club for another 2 years, that looks like the Titans will release him to take the opportunity to be the starting 7 at Canberra and to kind of lead a new and start it fresh, start at a new club and let himself a good deal there. So should be announced within the next 48 to 72 hours. So stay tuned for that. And that's all the news we have for the NRL world. Now, finals, week 3, ins, outs, and whereabouts. Manly versus the Rabbitohs, like I mentioned earlier. For the Rabbitohs, they're 1-17. Manly also 1-17. I'm hearing Brad Parker may be injured with Moses Suli to come in and replace him. So stay tuned for that. That could be happening. And the Storm will be taking on the Panthers as well. So Storm will get Ada Carback to replace Isaac Lumi, and everything else will be the same. And for the Panthers, a couple of injury concerns. Brian To'o has been named on an extended bench, maybe looking to come into the side late. Dylan Edwards has been limping around with an injury as well. Viliami Kikau has been nursing an ankle and knee injury, and Mitch Kenny has not been named this week as well. So a couple of couple injuries there for the Panthers. Now, I genuinely think Rabbitohs will beat Manly this week, and I reckon it will be by 6 to 10 points. I just think that Bennett will have something, again, up his sleeve to take to Manly, end their crazy run that they've had this year, and try to get a premiership for Reynolds and Bennett. So I think Rabbitohs by 10 to 12, which would be pretty crazy. And for the Storm Panthers game, I think the Storm, and I think it'll be pretty comfortable, depending on the health of those players. If that's not to be the case, I think it'll be Storm by 16 points. Guys, appreciate you joining me on another episode of League Chat with the Stat. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. So please subscribe to our channels. We're trying to boost subscriptions at this stage. Buy a hat for $25 a pop. Just put it through Facebook Shop. Let us know what else you guys want us to talk about, and we'll have everything prepared for you. But guys, enjoy rugby league. Only 2 more weeks to go before the season ends, so enjoy the 2 finals games as we get ready for the grand final. Have a good one, guys. Take it easy.